Hello.
Everyone.
Hello. And good, very wonderful Friday.
Hey.
We are ready with our live Q&A. Again, we're at this point where we would like some kind of indication that you can hear us and that we're not just sitting and speaking into thin air.
Thank you so much. Testing my membership is recognized. Thank you for that.
Amazing.
Yes,
I'm so happy.
is.
Yay. So
Thank
good
you.
to see all of
Yay.
you. Hey.
Oh, amazing.
Really nice. Really nice. We're just a bit late logging on because we had a conversation about guilt. And I know it's not something that is in the questions or anything, but it was just that pervasive feeling of guilt that can just be an underlying belief, part of our behavior, that we do not even see it or consider it or know that this is something that just arose, and then the body gives clear signals that there's something off. There's something that needs attention. So just sitting and talking about that before logging on. Announcement, we need to say that next week we do not have inquiry.
So that's Tuesday the
15th.
15th. Thank you.
Tuesday the 15th, there is no inquiry group and there's no Q&A. So next week there won't be any live sessions with us.
Yeah.
And then we're back the week after with another Q&A. On Friday. And then we're back on track again. So it's just
we had talked about rescheduling the Tuesday one, but then it throws off every single
everything that we have
for the rest of the year. And that's more confusing.
And we have sessions and stuff on Tuesday, so we couldn't even move it. So just remember, next week, you're off.
You're off, yeah.
You're off. You do not have to.
Week of freedom. Enjoy. It's like autumn vacation.
Yeah. So autumn vacation next week, where there's not inquiry and there's not Q&A.
Yeah.
There's obviously Discord. That you can ask. And I'm just sitting and thinking, didn't I tell Caesar he was here for a question for last week in inquiry group?
Yeah, you did.
And we didn't ask him. We didn't put him on. And I said, Caesar, my friend, you will be the first one on next inquiry. And Caesar, we have now canceled it. It is, I promise you, it's not a personal vendetta. It really, really, truly isn't.
So sorry, Caesar.
Yeah, so sorry about that. So we have to take Caesar. He has been waiting for a month then.
Yeah. He has to remind us though, because by the time in another 2 weeks, 1, 2, 3 weeks time, we are not going to remember any of this.
No. Yeah.
Remind us, Caesar. We're sorry.
And circling straight back into guilt.
Yes. There we go.
Amazing call.
It's always a very short.
It is a very, very short trip. Guilt and shame is a very, very short trip. Yeah. Okay.
For those of us who are new here,
all the new ones and Todd.
We refreshed every moment. So for those of us who are new here, we do have on Discord the Friday Q&A chat where you can feel free to even now write in questions and we will answer them live. The other opportunity is if you are here listening on YouTube, you can just write into the chat any questions that you have, and we will also kind of not necessarily prioritize those, but kind of prioritize those because you're here right now and we have them in the moment.
Yeah.
So
and Kate is asking if increase every 2 weeks. Yes. If you go into Discord on the Friday Q&A, at the top you have the date of when the inquiries are, and you have the Zoom link for the increase meeting, and then Q&A is the other Friday. So there's something every week where it's either inquiry on Tuesday or it's Q&A on Friday, and then it changed like that. So everybody can participate, except next week where it's autumn holiday for you guys.
Yeah. Kate, I'm so happy that you're here. I'm sorry. I think when I sent you the link, I think I didn't know that we were going to be off next week. So I think I did say that we had a session Tuesday, which we don't. So sorry about that. But happy to have you here.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Amazing.
Good.
Okay. So we'll start with Discord questions, and
yes.
then
And then if you
have
guys
something
have more
else,
questions, just write it in the chat and we reply.
thank you. Okay, so the first question is from Ben Steg. Question for Q&A. You mentioned the chameleon having different issues like OCD, allergies, asthma, low immunity. Would that mean if we deal with these underlying beliefs about the toxic starting point, that we could potentially help resolve these issues around allergies? I know you're not a doctor, just want your opinion on that matter. The mind-body connection is real, so this wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Pranella.
Thank you. Yeah.
Dr. Demore.
Yeah. Yeah, I am a doctor. but it doesn't really count. Well, it does count, but for the question, it doesn't really count. Yes, the thing with, okay, how I don't really know where to start that, because when you have a starting point like chameleon or aggressive bully or passive aggressive bully, that starting point is not only in your mind. It's not only the way that you perceive the world with either fear, anger, or guilt or shame. It's not the starting point in how you think other people are towards you. It's also the thoughts you have, because it's part of our survival mechanism. So if you have from a very, very early age, pre-verbal, been taught that the world is a dangerous place, then you have fear as a starting point. And that is your entire nervous system, your entire endocrine system. Everything is geared towards being careful because the world is a dangerous place. And that gives signals to your organs. It gives signals to your thoughts, so your psychology. It gives signals to your emotions. It gives signals to everything. So the starting point is literally the entrance point we have into the forest. If you go in from the north, east, west, or south side of the forest, you will have a different experience when you enter the forest on that side. And it's the same with the starting point. It does shape absolutely, utterly everything. And if you have a biochemistry and endocrinology and nervous system and everything that is geared towards be careful, then you are alert in a way that is excreting specific hormones, that is putting you in a mindset that has, a certain shape, if you can say it like that. But it's also the way that your entire organ system is working, your cardiovascular system, how much nourishment is given to the organs. For example, if you are the aggressive bully, then everything is on fight, which means that the entire sympathetic nervous system that is fighting, that is ready to fight, it has a lot of blood flow to the muscles. So you have a lot of tension in your body, a lot of muscular tension in your body, but you don't have that much blood flow to your digestive system, which means that all the blood is in the muscles, not in the digestive system, which means you do have issues with your digestive system. You are constipated. There are lots of different foods that you can't eat because you simply do not have the enzymatic processes to digest and to break down the food that you eat. So it shapes everything, absolutely everything. And it's also why it's so profound when you start to work with the Awakening curriculum, because you really, really see things from a different angle. You find out that you have always entered the forest from the north side. First of all, you find out, oh, I can enter it from the south, east, and west side, and that creates a completely different way of viewing everything. That is in the lower fives. In the higher fives, you find out there isn't any forest. That's not even a forest, And obviously, that relaxes the entire system. If you had a starting point of fear where you need to be careful, you need to be alert, you have like the flinching muscles off, you have like that entire, turtle shell protecting, and it's a matter of time until you develop anxiety and depression. It's right in the wake of that starting point. And really becoming aware and looking into that is just a starting point. It's not truth. Whatever you were told and whatever you were led to believe, whatever you reason you had to live your life and perceive the world as you did, it was just a survival mechanism. It was just for you to survive those crucial years in your childhood. It's not the truth. It's not reality. It was just reality in your family, and in that setting it was a reality. It's not reality in general. And then your nervous system will react, your endocrine system will relax, everything will be different. You will view yourself and other people differently, or like you did with anxiety. Would you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, but it does change everything.
Yeah.
You don't, because all the symptoms you have are not, understand me right when I say this, all the symptoms you have are not real. They are an indication of something that is not right. So it's a healthy reaction to an unhealthy situation. And when that unhealthy situation is sorted out, the healthy reaction doesn't need to be there anymore. A symptom is not a problem. A symptom is a solution to an unhealthy situation. It's a metaphor for you to look into it. For example, allergies, being allergic to the world. It's a very chameleon thing, you know? You can't even go outside because there's pollen attacking you. So when that is not your starting point anymore, your immunity will be different because you have a different standpoint in life. You start to literally excrete different enzymes and your immunity will be better. There's lots of things that will relax when you can relax and be alert when you need to be alert. When we are in that fear mode, we're always alert, which means that things start to break down because it's too much on all the time.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about anxiety?
I mean, that was so well.
We can move on to the next one.
I mean, that was such an incredible answer. I'm
Thank
not sure
you.
what I have to add to that in terms of, I think my personal experience is probably similar to what
Ben has.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of allergies and lots of
Yeah, and it's part of this is I think coming from both angles, where you have the recognition that there is no self, that there is no, as you said, there's no forest there afterwards. That helps to also make it easier to, because the body is still conditioned to be this way. The muscles are still in a certain posture, and you still have these kind of habitual things come up. It's relevant to be able to recognize immediately that these are just physical symptoms of a condition being a certain way, and that they're no longer taken to be truth, that I really need to be aware of something in my environment right now, because we often take it as being when we get those anxious feelings, it's not, even when we know that we have an anxiety disorder, a lot of times it's still not taken that this is just a disorder, or this is just a way of thinking, or this is just, it's like, it's real. It's like, it's telling me something that I need to know because something in my environment absolutely is dangerous. And this is like my faultless alert system going off that is warning me. I can't see the danger, but it's going off. So it means it must be here.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just want to emphasize, Ben, that I'm not saying that if you have allergies, that you should go outside and go like, I do not have allergies. Pernille says I do not have allergies. It's just in my mind. It is not what I'm saying. It is not what I'm saying. I mean,
peanuts will still kill you if you.
Absolutely. If you have allergies, it is part of a bigger transformation. And it is something that if you work with this, and if you are, if you start to unhook all the hooks that you have into it, and you start to calm down your nervous system, and you start to regulate your endocrine system, which is what you're doing with the awakening curriculum, then yeah, probably in 20, 30 years time, you won't have allergies anymore. But you have to remember that since the pre-verbal, since you were in your grandmother, right? You started to have a certain way of functioning, of working, that is part of the genetic material. And that is what you are dealing with now at the age of 40. So thinking that I can just go outside and inhale pollen and eat pine notes and pine nuts, and everything's fine. It's just in my mind. It's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying. Yeah. I just wanted to emphasize that.
Yeah. So two notes there. One is, like I was saying, it's just without the identification, it's easier and easier to start seeing that these things are just temporary physical manifestations and not an indication of something that really needs your attention externally necessarily, that is really like, I used to have a thing where I felt like I was going to have, ironically, either like an anaphylactic reaction to something, like I would try a new food or I would take a medication or something, and immediately I would start being concerned that I was going to be allergic to it and have this anaphylactic reaction. And of course, I would start to feel certain aspects of, I don't know, I don't think I can breathe as deeply as I can. I think my throat might be closed. I feel itchy. And those things would start to come up, but it wasn't because I was actually having any sort of reaction to those things. It was completely psychosomatic, but also it's being able to really recognize that just because you feel it doesn't mean that it's true. That this is not something that is an indicative of a real emergency, unless you actually are having an allergic reaction to something. And by all means, please go get medical help. But it's also interesting because even just speaking of allergies, like when I was a kid, I was really, really allergic to milk. So I would just throw up every day because they didn't know that I was allergic to milk for a while. And then by the time I was like 13, I had outgrown it. And then briefly I was allergic to peanuts, and then that went away. And so I've had these kind of fleeting things, but even my like environmental allergies used to be so bad that I would have to take all these medicines and like really awful stuff because I was like super, super sick from it. And I don't know whether it was a combination of lifestyle changes, being vegan, the, sort of stress situations in my life being resolved, like personal stress going down, all of these things that have changed, but my allergies have gone way, 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 way down from.
But there were factors in your life. There were people in your life that had that alert about them,
completely.
And you needed to be alert all the time. Absolutely. Because they would either be here or almost arrive and be here. So you had to be alert, and that alertness is allergy. That is an overreaction to a normal situation. So and what I was trying to say before is that what is in one aspect is in all aspects. That if you're allergic and have that overreaction to normal things, that is basically your personality. That you do have a tendency to overreact on everything because it's in one aspect, in all aspects.
And also worthy to keep note of that none of this points to a particular you who is a certain way, who has a personality that is just built this way, or that there is, what we're really talking about
and
is
no
this,
fault. There's no fault anyway. No.
It's just an impersonal pattern of causes and conditioning and behaviors that are being elicited because of other events and environmental factors. And so there's no doing in any of this. There's no guilt or shame for you in any of this. There's no one in there who is inherently a fearful, shameful, anxiety-prone creature.
No.
It's just a biological organism that shows certain symptoms of being what we call colloquially anxious or neurotic, or
and no matter what it is, everything needs to be met with compassion and kindness, because it originated in non-compassion and non-kindness. So it is the way, you know, the solution to all problems is to love it.
Yeah.
Not to love it away, but to absolutely love it for being there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was there for a
Absolutely
purpose.
serve the
There was
purpose, yeah.
some reason that it appeared.
Yeah.
It might seem in retrospect maladaptive in some way. You might rather that it was otherwise, but it's just to recognize that it did serve a very real purpose. Otherwise it wouldn't be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to see. Kate wrote, okay. I'd be curious to know if you recommend practices like TRE for people who have dysregulated nervous systems as a complementary way to deal with this kind of toxic starting point. I'm a provider.
Yeah.
As a bottom-up approach instead of as a complement to working with thoughts to create safety in the body, which then calms down the hyper-alertness in the mind and emotions, as well as the inflammatory response in the body. Doesn't need to take 20 to 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. For some people, TRE is really, really good. Really good in feeling into and having the muscles react and just allowing, you know, to experience and express whatever is coming up. For other people, TRE is the most stressful thing they can do. My nervous system can't deal with TRE. And that's why we have the 12 exercises that we are using in the embodiment and the embodiment awakening, because all of that is more like shaking and pumping, and it's much more organic exercises that you do, where it's all of it is also in axis. A lot of exercises you can get are out of axis. The way that we work with it is that it needs to be as normal and natural to the normal and natural movements of the body that is supporting boundaries in the body. If you're out of axis, you're out of boundary. So the 12 exercises that we do in the embodiment and awakening is much more with pumping and shaking and soft movement than that forceful vibration. For other people, it's super helpful with the eye circulations. That is really helping for the body to experience and express what is happening in the body.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So whichever of the physical embodiment methodologies tend to resonate with you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kate said, TRE needs to be done properly, dosed properly, very helpful to be led by a provider. TRE is a natural movement in the body, involuntary, not forceful.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I've had only limited experience with TRE. Really interested, and I know a lot of people that we work with really swear by it.
So many people are really enjoying TRE and it's really finding it useful.
Yeah.
And I know it has been.
Yeah. Activates the natural tremoring mechanism in the body. Grace says, I like to do both TRE and intuitive dance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would love to have a session.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Kate.
Thank you.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have V. Everywhere I look, every inquiry made. Sorry, let me start over again. Everywhere I look, every inquiry made leads to not knowing and not finding. Stuck in the awareness of not knowing, and yet still trying to identify this not knowing and looking for what's not findable, so to speak. I've always used the term, it's a mystery, long before all this search for the so-called truth. Excuse me. Not sure what the question is, frankly, just an intuition that there is something more to peel back, or is there? After all, everything seems to still be a perception or knowing of or experience of the unknown, awareness, being, consciousness, bliss, etc. Is that even possible without a perceiver or knower? Thanks again.
Well, there are so many things in this.
Yeah.
Can we leave it open, because I would like to remember all of the things. You can put it there. The problem with the not knowing, and the problem with looking into this is that the more you know, the more you know you don't know. You know, that there's like the more you work with this to find a clarity of something, the more obscure things are looking, because there's so many things that you can't find a clarity for. So it's working with the not knowing without any attachment to the not knowing. And I would say that looking into where is your attachment to knowing and where's your attachment to the not knowing. Because it needs to be from that free space where
because even when you say like stuck in the awareness of not knowing, there's still an implication there, and it also comes in later in the question about the perception, that there's a conceptual understanding of not knowing, because that then becomes this new belief that like I'm aware that everything is just a mystery, that I can't know anything, and that becomes kind of held as its own endpoint, as opposed to if there was really that not knowing, there's not even a question about knowing or not knowing that could arise. It's from a space where there's not even awareness of the fact that there is not knowing. It is just simply the not knowing is used sort of as a placeholder for something which is ineffable. And so to say that
you can't be stuck there.
No, there's no way to describe that just completely clear, open, untouched, spacious wordlessness. But the closest thing we get is just saying that it's this ambiguity of not knowing or mystery, because we don't. But we don't want to get locked into any sort of belief around the idea that, well, I don't know, and that there is an awareness of the not knowing.
It's also why we call it wisdom of ignorance.
Yeah.
That it is that I can't really say it any different than wisdom of ignorance. Is that knowing that there is a wisdom to not knowing, that we will never ever have all the information. Mm-hmm. You will never ever, in any aspect of anything, do we ever have all the information. We only have our perception of things, which is not even the full truth. It's very, very limited to our perception of what we think things are or how we experience things. Even beyond our perception, we do not know what is beyond our perception, which means we will never ever have access to everything. And even what is within your perception, it is impossible to know everything, because all information that you are receiving all the information you're receiving is not permanent. So the picture is changing all the time. It's like sitting and looking at a kaleidoscope that is moving very, very, very slowly. The moment you think you know where the turquoise triangle is, it's now a yellow circle, and that is life. That is life. Everything is changing all the time. You can start out with something. For example, you start with the fifth feather in the curriculum, and it's so difficult and it's so complicated, and it just feels like your fault, and you're blaming yourself for everything. So you go back and do the curriculum from scratch, and when you get to the fifth feather, you're like, what was that about? Why was this so complicated? I don't even know what's complicated about this anymore, because the kaleidoscope have moved, and you don't know that the kaleidoscope is moving. So we're not even aware of that constant change happening, which means that what you think you know now is just what you think you know now on the basis of the shape of the kaleidoscope right now. It's not how it looks in an hour. So everything you think you know right now in an hour, you could be in utter doubt again about something. And if you think that you have to know everything, that is when you are plunged into the doubt. So it's basically about the underlying belief of knowing that needs to be dissolved.
Yeah. And then you said And after all, everything seems to still be a perception or knowing of or experience of this unknown awareness, being, consciousness, bliss. And is that even possible without a perceiver or knower? And this is where it's that issue of, after the, well, in the eighth fetter, where we're talking about awareness not actually existing either, that there is no separation between the recognition of the thing and the thing itself. It is just simply this spontaneous co-arising. But there's still a concept that's being pointed to here. If there's, because what it really comes down to is that when you say everything seems to still be a perception of everything being unknown, or that in knowing that everything is just consciousness, it's really the belief that you're talking about. It's the fact that there is this underlying conceptualization about, now I have figured out some version of truth, even if that truth is that I can't actually know anything for sure, and that what feels true is just a temporary manifestation, that's still being held onto as a type of new conceptualized belief. And so what we're saying is that eventually even those have to be let go of, that even those are still just as binding as the idea that I am one with everything, or that I am a really like small individual little Todd who's just sitting here on a couch and, talking to a computer. Like, all of those are just as much belief. And ultimately they're good pointers to get you through one stage after another. So each one is kind of like a a temporary pacifier to leave behind the one that you no longer need. But ultimately each one has to be let go.
Yeah.
And so what you're speaking of there is where it becomes a moot point to even say that things seem to be consciousness or bliss or ever-present awareness or unknowingness or whatever. You can just drop all of it. None of it is helpful at that point. Then the idea of one who is perceiving it, knowing it, experiencing it, who needs to have it be a certain way, or who needs for it to be a permanent state of experience, all of that can fall away because you're not locked into anything. If it's just complete, fresh arising out of nothing into nothing, just that complete silence that's there, all of that is completely besides the point. And
that's really good.
Thanks. I think that kind of gets to the root of, if I understand it, to the root of what you were kind of asking.
Yeah, really good.
Thanks.
Really good. Yeah.
Okay.
There was something up there. So.
Hannah said, "I joined late. Hi everyone. Did you remember to answer Caesar's question first, since it was a misread?"
Oh, so, Hannah, you're here just to remind us about our guilt.
Yes, we did talk about that we unfortunately, because we don't have his question here, we wanted to ask it in the Tuesday meeting, but we actually have to cancel next Tuesday's meeting, which means he's going to have to go another couple of weeks without having his question answered.
And we feel so guilty. So thank you for just bringing that up. We just need a fresh boost of guilt here.
Really rubbing our noses in it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sorry, Caesar. Sorry.
Thank you for reminding, Hannah. That's actually really, really sweet.
It's so sweet. Thank you because we do need you in a month from now when we forget Caesar.
Completely.
So thank you so much.
Okay, Cleona is next. Cleona asked, do we also needs bypass in spiritual communities, like feelings bypass? I ask that because I have a background in studying nonviolent communication, and this is very much part of my conditioning. I love nonviolence, always have, and a lot of people misunderstand the word ahimsa, but it really means a radical, unconditional love, including even enemies.
Ahimsa.
I thought it was ahimsa. I think that was just a typo.
Mm.
Martin Luther King was a great practitioner of this. In NVC, mental judgments or holding enemy images of others are also considered violent. Here, as is not speaking up for your own needs when emotionally stirred. Anyway, in NVC, needs are beautiful. They arise from life. It's about dancing with life and not about being needy or imposing your needs as demands on other people, but making it a fun game of requests, allowing people to say what they want too, making life more wonderful. I once heard an NVC teacher, Robert Gonzalez, now passed, say, "Needs are the light that God's light shines through." He had a spiritual angle to needs, and yet I hear spiritual teachers often say that they have no needs. Maybe it's lost in translation, but to me it sounds like utter rubbish. Sorry. The reason they give satsangs or teach is because life is creating a space for them to contribute. It's hopefully fun for them and beautiful to meet needs for everyone in this way. If there was a flood in your town, we would need safety, we would need rest, we would need community. These are all beautiful, life-enriching needs to have, totally impersonal, and all of us have these needs just because we are human. Anyway, just a light question for you both from me, sarcasm, haha, and longing for a world with more giraffe, make life wonderful energy. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Again, can we have it open?
Yep, sure.
There's so many things to say about that, because the first thing we need to
Sorry.
No, the first thing I would like to talk about is all the different ways that we can be violent in our speech. And as Buddhists, we're very much focused on that, because it's part of the Eightfold Noble Path, where it's about right speech, being nonviolent in our speech and being nonviolent in our communication with others. And it all comes from violence in our speech or in our behavior to other people comes from the starting point. Where are you in it? So even if somebody says something and you don't reply, but you roll your eyes at them, that is violence. In Buddhism, that is violence. That is violent speech. Even though no words are uttering your lips, but the way that you are towards them by rolling your eyes, that is a violent violent communication, and something where you're signaling to other people that see that, not necessarily the person that you're talking to, but the other people see it, and you're planting small seeds of violence into all the other people. So in Buddhism, we're very much aware and working a lot with right speech, which is nonviolent communication. So that was the first thing I just want to say, that nonviolent communication is a huge deal of what we also work with the curriculum, and also in the 4th and 5th fetter. The other thing that I think we need to be very clear on when we talk about needs, is it a need or is it a want? Because, for example, like we talked about earlier today, you replied to an email that somebody wrote, and we have also said this in lessons when we talk about boundaries, that standing up for your boundary and knowing where your boundary is very often is difficult to distinguish. Is this a boundary or is this a 4-5 issue where I want people to do something? And you have a very clear definition of what boundaries are.
Thanks. Yeah. So what we find is that it's really I'm happy that on one hand, in the non-dual world, we're starting to hear more and more people who are doing the self-care to recognize that it is helpful to have healthy boundaries. But we also run the risk of then taking that and using it as a way of just running roughshod over everybody else, because it just can become a new type of egoism. So what we want to discern is whether this is actually a boundary issue or whether, like you said, it's 4 or 5. And so generally what I say is, if it's a boundary issue, is it injurious? Will it be harmful to you, either physically, psychologically, emotionally,
or
mentally,
intellectually, or spiritually?
Yeah. If so, then this is a boundary issue. If not, then it's a matter of preference. So
for example, if I have that, Todd is asking me to get up at 4 a.m. to drive him to the airport. I mean, he's completely encroaching on my boundaries. He's not. I just don't want to drive him to the airport at 4 or 5 in the morning. That is a 4 or 5 issue. If it's like, I don't want, what other example can we give?
Well, I said, like, somebody talking to you about their political views.
Yeah.
Like, you might disagree with them. It might feel very uncomfortable in you because it's challenging something that's in you, but that's not a boundary issue. If they're not saying, I'm making you come to this rally with me and you're going to hold this sign and you're going to, like, they're just talking to you. But if you feel that defensive reaction to it and feel like they're crossing my boundaries by talking to me about this stuff, that's something where you are not, you're not feeling comfortable because there is something in you which is being triggered by it. This is something good for you regarding the bubble of reality to start finding out, why is this so challenging for me to hear somebody else's views that I disagree with?
Yeah. You cannot talk to me in that way.
Yeah.
It's very, very often not actually about them being injurious of me in any way emotionally, or unless they like, you're fucking stupid and you're all of that. And it rings true in me. So it really hurts like that. But if I have like a solid sense of self and I have like a solid experience of where I am, I know when somebody tells me that I'm fucking stupid, that it's not about me. So I get more like that. Oh, you need a hug, because it can't be about me. I'm not stupid. It can't be about me, which means that is not damaging my boundaries in any way. I can just want them not to talk like that. That's a 4 or 5 issue.
Yeah.
So when we talk about wants and needs, we need to be very, very clear that when we talk about needs, we need to be very clear if it really is a need, or if it's a want, something that I would like. For example, like we talked about this morning, that we also have the societal.
Yeah, it's like a universal need versus the universal a customary need.
Yeah, and the universal need is that we need sleep and food and water and
shelter
and personal contact with people. We need love and hugs, and we need all that. That is like the universal needs.
Universal,
but then
basic biological need to sustain this physical meat suit.
But then we have, for example, I'm from Denmark, and we have in law what is called a simple home, that everybody in Denmark has the right to a simple home. And a simple home is a healthy environment with a roof and electricity, so there's light, a bed, a table, a chair, a TV, and internet connection. That is a basic human right in Denmark. That is a simple home. And if you cannot afford to get yourself a simple home, the state will provide you with a simple home. That is societal, because that is definitely not the case here in the US.
No.
There are lots of people that are living in moldy buildings or living in the street, and they do not have a bed for themselves, and they do not have a table and chair for themselves. And if there are 12 people in the family, they don't have 12 chairs. So that is societal. That is what we have in Denmark as a like base start for human rights. That is not the case here.
No.
So it's also looking at that.
And also the fact that there's an idea that those things are also necessary. And yet there are people who willfully live in conditions which are much, much more difficult than that, without electricity, without a bed and all that. And they're perfectly happy.
Content. Yeah, exactly.
Because they have chosen that this is all I need for my sustaining. I'm perfectly fine having somebody bring me food once a week, and I'm just sitting and meditating in a cave or something, utterly content with that. Or there are people who live in some cases, this is not to say that this is everybody by any means, but there are people who live in other in other societies where, again, much poorer way of life, where you don't have as many what we take to be just regular amenities of
they don't have
living.
Running water, they don't have pure water, they don't have any electricity, or
and in some cases it's absolutely awful and they would, do anything to get out of it. And then in other cases, there is like a baseline of still general happiness or contentment that can be there, even with very, very, what we would see as very, very limited.
I've been to a Bedouin camp in Sahara where there was no running water or electricity or anything like that. And people would pay a lot of money to come and stay there for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
So yeah. So it's also looking into the needs that we have, if they're societal or if they're universal.
Yeah. And that's where, I don't really know. I'm aware of the nonviolent communication and that stuff.
I've read all Rosenberg's work.
Yeah, but I'm not that involved with it. And so I don't know when people are saying, where is it? Like when they talk about the needs being kind of a, I'm just trying to find where it says it. That in nonviolent communication, needs are beautiful. They arise from life. It's about dancing with life and not being about needy or imposing your needs as demands on other people, but making it a fun game of requests. And I would say for what we talk about, a key here is for one thing, the attachment to those needs or the fulfillment requests. Of the fulfillment of the requests.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fine. I have the feeling that I would love to have a new house or a girlfriend or whatever the thing is that I feel like I'm missing. Is there an attachment though to that playing out the way that I think it should, looking like the house having all of the different parameters that I think it should have, a girlfriend being a certain way that I expect, or, like we set out with all of these certain ideas of what I think I need, and then how much of it is really an actual base level need and how much of it are just this list of, just these aspirational wants that I can create all sorts of amazing things in my mind that will potentially never be fulfilled.
But it's also,
are you okay with that? If you can come up with these things and still not get that thing, is that okay or not?
It's exactly what you're pointing to. The attachment to it, because I loved nonviolent communication, and I was absolutely on the bandwagon when it came out there in early 2000s. I really thought it was amazing, but very quickly I also saw how it became dangerous, because you can use the wording in nonviolent communication for your benefit and manipulate people, because you're taught to say feel. I feel that you make me very unsafe when you talk like that. Which means that what he meant with it was to be open about how you feel, become aware of how you feel, let the other person know how you feel, and you can connect on that level. And that way, what he meant with it is so pure and wonderful and innocent, and I absolutely love it. But how it can be used, for example, of a passive-aggressive bully, is that it can be used to manipulate. But I feel you make me very unsafe, meaning he needs to fucking stop.
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable. You should stop what you're doing so I don't feel uncomfortable anymore. Yeah. Which means that all of a sudden I'm displaying myself as a victim and becoming a perpetrator by now being a perpetrator towards his free will, his free expression. He can't talk to me like that. I don't want him to say like that. I feel you're very bossy when you decide what we should do on Sunday. I don't feel that is right, that you should decide on my behalf on what we do on that is fucking manipulative and bully and passive-aggressive bully. And, so I am suddenly taking the very, very beautiful teaching from nonviolent communication and using it, because passive-aggressive bully start point, using it to manipulate other people so they, out of guilt and shame, adhere and obey what I want them to do, because I'm using the magic word feel. I feel something, as if that is true. Second fetter, it can't be true. It's just a feeling. So it's really, really, really looking at where is this arising from? What is it actually that this is pointing to? And is there something in me that has a starting point as a bully, passive-aggressive bully, or chameleon, that is making me use words the way that I am? And is there anything 4-5 fetter related that I want or don't want that he needs to change, so I'm not comfortable anymore. And by that, you're using nonviolent communication to be a perpetrator. So be really aware of that.
Yeah, and I can see, and again, I don't know the people that you referenced or the
no, I don't know the people referenced either.
And like when you say like, or when that Robert Gonzalez says that needs are the light that God's light shines through. Again, I don't know where this is coming from, but what I see as my kind of red flag when I hear things like this is that knowing the ways that things get manipulated, especially within the spiritual community. And in particular, we just made a video about synchronicity where we're talking about this sort of thing, that a lot of these get mutated from what, like you said, is a really innocent, lovely expression of somebody's direct experience. And it gets put into this kind of materialistic, wish fulfilling, pseudo spiritual way of all of a sudden sublimating egoic desires into something that seems much more godly and high and yeah. And it's just not, it's just basically a way of allowing us to still continue with those same feelings of avarice and desire and all of that, normally vilified kind of grasping. But it is possible, and I'm not saying that he's doing this or that you're doing this or any of that, but I'm saying when I hear things like that, it's those type of things which can be spun in a way that suddenly becomes very ego gratifying. And it can really be taken in ways which are much more detrimental in the long run, because you're not asked to investigate what are these actual supposed needs, how true are they, how do they actually have anything to do with my like the physical basic health of this body existing on a planet, and how much of it is just fulfilling some hole that I feel in me that is not okay with things being the way that they are.
And it's also looking at which starting point do those needs have, because if a need has a starting point, basic survival, I mean, that is not really a starting point. That basic survival is like, I need to run because there's explosions behind me, or there's fire behind me, or there's like the roof is falling in, or that is not a starting point. It's basic survival. But if our needs start to have a starting point of I need connection with you, so I have a need for connection, so you need to sit down now and connect with me, that is a 4-5 issue. It's not a need. So if there's a starting point, be wary, because the starting point usually is self-referential. I am the one with the starting point. I am here in the middle of it, and I want things around me to fall into place. So if we talk from the theta world and the higher thetas particularly, then there is no starting point, which means that there is no I in the middle. So there's no need for me here. Sorry.
No, it's just my position
in
was,
your neck. There's no me here that has a need for us to connect and a need for Todd to do anything particularly, because there's no starting point and there's no I here.
Yeah. The last thing I was going to say is just going back to the very first part of your question about needs bypassing, and I like that term. But I would say where we run the most risk of that in this kind of a community is leaning towards asceticism, where you are actually denying your basic needs that we've talked about because of some higher ideal of subjugating the body to the power of the spirit or the mind or whatever else. And so that is a place where it's absolutely an issue.
But that's second theta issue. If you come from the chameleon starting point, and you have that, I'm not worthy, the others are, then for me to spend money on food, extravagant food like the apples I really, really enjoy, that is selfish. It comes across as selfish, and I could take that money and donate it to a shelter instead. but I'm being selfish now and buying the extra expensive apple that I really, really like. That is being selfish. That is the chameleon starting point.
Mhm.
You need to come from a space where there's no starting point. There's no starting point. There's no chameleon. There's no underlying belief. There's no bully or passive aggressive bully. There's no underlying belief of fear, anger, guilt, and shame. There's none of that. All of that is gone. It's absolutely gone. And then there won't be a starting point, and there won't be asceticism,
Yeah.
either, because that can only exist when the second fetter is intact.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So it is something that absolutely exists, but I would just say to be aware of whether it's really that or if it's a somewhat new agey way of just making okay the otherwise unrecognized desires that are still lurking in the system.
I just saw that we got donations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leela, and thank you, Anne.
And Lee, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So donations means everything to us. So thank you so much for donations. We're super, super grateful.
Thank you both.
Yeah, really, really happy.
I felt like there was one other thing I was going to say about that need, the asceticism part of it, but yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, I think we well covered that. Yeah.
There was some questions up there.
Okay. Let me scroll back.
Those we haven't.
Okay. So Hannah said, I've totally seen folks, not in this space though, use supposed boundaries as a means to control others, very similar to what you're describing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Alila said, I love learning from Marshall Rosenberg directly.
Yeah.
Yet I totally agree with TMP, reminding us that all systems, including the fetters, can be mutated to be used to bypass, victimize, etc. Absolutely. Yeah. Once my bubble of reality was revealed for what it was, I realized I was using my spiritual language to bully and manipulate others.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
Yeah.
And another donation.
Thank you, Grace.
Just another donation. Thank you
so much, Grace.
Thank you.
So kind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Patty had said, hi, friends. I'm traveling today, so can't be with you. Can you address the rolling of the eyes here? When I'm calm, first thing in the morning, my eye rolls are smooth. When I'm out and about in daily life, there are more jitters and jumpiness in the movement. Is this impermanence showing itself? I used to think there was something wrong with me. Now I'm questioning if it's just the body reacting to its environment.
It is the body reacting to the environment. When you roll your eyes and you don't have any mantras, but you just roll your eyes, you can feel that when you are relaxed, if you're doing it right after meditation or right when you wake up, it's just rolling very, very easily, clockwise, counterclockwise, and painting up to down and down to up. Everything is very, very smooth. And so is your pulse and your heartbeat and your blood pressure. Everything is very relaxed. When you're out and about, when you're standing in the middle of Walmart, or when you're driving your car or anything like that, it's the same thing. When you roll your eyes, it will start to become jittery. Your pulse will be higher, your blood pressure will be higher, because you're affected by everything around you. So by practicing deep breathing, by practicing when you are in traffic, just closing your eyes, not when you're driving, obviously, but at a red light or at a parking lot, that you just close your eyes a bit and roll your eyes one way and the other way until you find that calm in your body and feel that the nervous system is relaxing, everything is getting back to homeostasis, back to where you're supposed to be. Then you can actually use it to signal to the body that everything is okay and I'm right here, everything's fine.
Nice.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to add to that one. That was really good. I still feel like in my mind there was something else with the needs bypassing ascetic thing that it was almost there and then it went away again.
But do you want to talk about it? Just randomly talk about need, but we can do that. Because you were there.
Yeah, I
You
very much
you
was
you
there.
lived for a lot of
Yeah,
years
yeah,
in that asceticism where
yeah,
where where your needs were selfish and
yeah,
shouldn't be there, and your focus was very much on others. It was a
absolutely.
complete, in my understanding and in my book, a complete misunderstanding of the bodhisattva vow.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think also prior to that, I also had ones where I had really taken on, even though I was still living, in a house and having the everything basic here, it was still coming from a point where I had really internally vilified watching TV and listening to music and certain things like that, where I had really started condensing because I had this idea that we really needed to be absolutely distractionless, absolutely have no enjoyment of anything,
Mm,
because that would be uh, some sort of craving or desire, and there was no leeway about having. There was no idea that you could have an enjoyment of something without having an attachment to it.
mm,
That hadn't really registered. It just seemed like everything was a way of bypassing if I was doing any of that, and that I absolutely had to have nothing and should just cut it right all off
mm.
at the
It's like
roots.
that Buddhist, I can't remember tradition, that when they see a sunset or
Yeah,
sunrise, they
yeah,
turn
turn the
their back.
back. Yeah, exactly.
Where the whole clue to all of it is that there's nothing wrong with any of it.
Yeah,
It's the attachment.
exactly.
It's the attachment. It's like that story with the two monks, the
Yeah,
old monk and the young monk that is going along, and then they come to a stream, and there's a woman there, and the old monk lift up the young woman and carry her to the other side of the shore, and they walk on. And 2 hours later, the young monk goes, "I simply have to talk to you about that. We're not supposed to
touch women.
touch women and lift women and
Yeah,
carry them
yeah,
around, and you just carried her across the stream,
yeah. How could you
and
do that? You
how,
broke your
you
vow.
broke your vow." And the old monk says, "Well, I left her 2 hours ago. You're still carrying around on her." And that is the point. It's about the attachment. So the asceticism is looking at, do you do it for greed? Do you do it
Yeah,
for indulgence, for all of that craving, not feeling what is actually arising in the moment, and dulling or numbing something that you don't want to? Is it part of that, or are you just, you know
is it there? Is there a spontaneous arising of enjoyment for the thing, which is not dependent upon it needing to be
yeah.
there and maintain there, and that if you're okay with watching a sunset, feeling that spontaneous arising of and then being perfectly fine when 5 minutes later it's gone and it's just dark, and you're not holding on to the sunset, you're not holding on to, oh, I wish that lasted longer, I can't wait till tomorrow and I can feel that again, without any of that, then it's perfectly just a pure natural arising. And if
Mm,
we come from the standpoint that I'm not even able to look at it, you are creating so much out of that sunset that isn't in it. So
mm,
you're coming from that same starting point that sunsets are inherently beautiful, which makes them evil. And and I cannot indulge in them. I must not indulge in them. And so you're giving it so much power that it doesn't actually have.
mm,
You're creating all of that in the moment. So it's so much better to be able to just be with things. This food tastes really good right now. Okay, I'm done with it.
yeah. You have
The,
in the poetry book, you have one of your poems where you talk about that if you can, I'm completely gonna butcher it now. Just
I'm looking forward to hearing
so
this. Yeah.
I'm not the poet, right? So I'm butchering this now, right? But this is the message that where he talks about that if you can imagine like a blueberry pie and you can smell. You're not saying that. I'm butchering. Don't look
I
like
meant
that.
to. No,
Don't
no.
look like that.
The thing that I'm looking forward to is trying to figure out if I can discover which
Wait,
poem it is that you're actually talking about by
I'm
this
talking about
description.
my takeaway from your poem was that, if you imagine like a blueberry pie and you close your eyes and you see it for your inner eye and you can feel how you start to produce saliva and the xylem and the enzymes in the saliva, and you can smell it and you can taste it and you can feel how it is in your mouth and how it is to chew it and how wonderful it is. If you can imagine all that, you don't need to eat it. You don't need to
Yeah.
eat it because you just had the full experience of it.
Exactly.
And the attachment comes to, I had a blueberry pie in the fridge and you ate my blueberry pie. I wanted a blueberry pie. Now you ate my blueberry pie. That is where the attachment comes to it, which is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the problem of thinking of a blueberry pie.
No.
There's no problem with that. There's no problem with enjoying a sunset. There's no problem with that. But if you get into your car and you have attachment to seeing a beautiful sunset, and now we're going to have such a cozy time, God damn it, and then there's no sunset, that is a problem, because it's not about the sunset, it's about the attachment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I figured out which poem it was.
You did.
I
didn't butcher it completely.
Well, yeah, you did, but I still figured out. I still figured out where you were going with it. The end guy.
I did butcher it completely. Yay me!
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy.
So happy. Talk about all the different enzymes in the mouth that were.
Yeah, you're not mentioning that, are you?
No, I did not.
Yeah. Okay. It's because carbohydrates, they have different enzymes in the saliva and the mouth. I just thought
there are some things which are left to the reader's imagination and collective knowledge.
Thank you.
I was gonna say too, because we actually don't have any more questions yet. Somebody was typing, but I'm waiting for the full thing to come in. So we could just talk for a moment, because that reminded me of the thing about cravings. And it might just be relevant to. Is there another one? Yeah, okay. Maybe there is another one that came up. Leela Devi said, this just came up yesterday and I did not handle it well. I believe I need to be more authentic. When my partner reacts with a lot of energy and puts down something I have said and ideas I have offered, or those attachments also become a point from which you can judge others and you continue not to see, but divert from what is fixated in oneself. Oh, wait, those are two different things. Sorry. That did not make sense. Let me read that again. So Leela had said, this just came up yesterday and I did not handle it well. I believe I need to be more authentic when my partner reacts with a lot of energy and puts down something I have said and ideas I've offered.
Mm. So Leela, the thing in that would be, where's your attachment to it? Because if I come to you with an idea I have, and I have an expectation to how Todd he's supposed to react, that is not making Todd free to react the way that he reacts. I have hooks into him reacting in a certain way, because that would confirm to me that I am okay. That's a second feta issue in me. So when I then go and tell him something and he doesn't react the way that I expect him to do, I start to feel, angry or start to complain about him. That's a 4-5 issue. So it's still with you. It's still about figuring out where is the attachment to what because what you're sharing with him is not coming from an authentic place. If it came from an authentic place, I really want to share this with you, then it's about me sharing it. Then I have no expectation to how he reacts, because it's about me sharing it. If it's about, I really want you to praise me and tell and reassure me that what I have done is right.
Or put my ideas that I give you, or my advice that I give you, into action.
Oh, you have a problem. Yeah. I know the solution to your problem. I now want you to do what I tell you to do to your problem, because then I feel better. And if you don't do that, then we have a problem.
It's a lot of problems in that sentence.
It is. Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you want to say more about that, Tulila?
I just want to read it one more time.
I don't know if I misunderstood it.
Well, it's because we could use a little bit more information about what when you say you didn't handle it well. Was it that you felt internally hurt and rejected by it and shut down, or did you respond back with like some sort of angry outburst? And when you say that your partner responds with a lot of energy and puts down something that you have or some idea, I mean, it's really something we can unpack and go much more deeply into, because it's
But
like
it would not. It would also be nice to have more information, because
no,
if it's like I come and say, oh, I really wanna cook dinner. I have this amazing idea, and your response is your cooking sucks. I hate everything you put together. You should never touch a pan. You know, then it's not really,
yeah.
it's not really me that have a problem.
No, but that's the thing is, because we don't know exactly how it is coming across, it's also possible that how you're interpreting his or her oh, okay, sorry, we just got more information.
We just got more information.
This just in. So Leela just wrote,
wait, I can hear in my, we had just got a new update.
Thank you, other Leela. Okay, so what Leela Devi said is, this, referring to the NVC discussion, just came up yesterday, and I did not handle it well. I believe I need to be more authentic. When my partner reacts with a lot of energy and puts down something I've said, an idea I have offered, or a study I enjoyed, he responds with, "That's stupid," or "That won't work," without hearing me. My reactive response is to shut down and think thoughts like, "I don't deserve this. I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life." This has not been communicated to him. While it is my bubble of reality, the aggression, the shutdown, the "I don't want this," there is concern that I will just leave him without giving him a chance to work things out. So I brought an aspect of it up, but blew it. He was left thinking he has to change, and he won't know if he is passing or not.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, yeah. This is where nonviolent communication is so amazingly great for relationships, and what I really like what Marshall Rosenberg, what he was what he was teaching, because it is really that, being completely clear in your communication with your partner, and also knowing, like, that's also where I love the Buddhist way of asking ourselves before we speak, is it kind?
Is it timely?
Is it for now? And is it helpful? And the timely thing is one that we often are not really aware of.
Yeah.
Because when I have something that I really want to tell Todd, he might be sitting in the toilet. It might not be timely, so it's better for me to wait. If your partner was standing with his, head into the bins, washing them out, or into the car, or on the way backing out of the driveway on his way to work because he was late, and you go, "Oh, by the way, I read this amazing study, it's not now." And a lot of time, if we're not aware, then we tend to deflect from a feeling of inadequacy. Now I'm taking his role. So if he is not aware, he might deflect from that feeling of inadequacy, that he can't reply to you. For example, if you come with a study, he hasn't got the mental surplus right now to read the study and really look into it. So what he does is blame, shame, complain, just saying, "That's stupid, that will never work," because he's just deflecting, because he has a feeling of inadequacy that he hasn't got space to right now to look into. So it is unskillful from his part. I absolutely, if that is the case, I just created a story. I just created a story. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, some people are just jerks. Like we don't,
absolutely,
we don't know.
We can take the jerk in a moment. I just created a story that he didn't have the emotional surplus to look into the study right now. And instead, because he doesn't have the emotional surplus, he does not have the emotional surplus to be skillful in his interaction with other people, because there's no surplus. And then we have a tendency just to deflect and say, "That's stupid. They're stupid. They don't know anything. That would never work. Like they're the problem out there, because I haven't got the surplus to deal with it in here." So that's one thing to be aware of in that situation. Are you asking him to look into a study that he doesn't have the emotional surplus to right now, and you as his partner would know if he has the surplus, right? Is this timely? is this now? Does he have the surplus right now to deal with it? The other part is the jerk. If your partner is a jerk, then he's just a jerk. No matter when you bring him anything, he will just completely deflect. He knows he's a jerk. Most jerks do, but they do not want to be a jerk. So therefore, for 5, they project it out there, blaming, shaming, complaining. It's out there. They are the issue. I'm not the issue. Funnily enough, all of them are the issue, not me. And that's where they're going to stay forever. Never, ever going to change.
Yeah. One other thing for you to be aware of just for your own development as you go through is, what is your motivation for sharing these things in that moment? You know, when you say, what is it? Like, sorry, I wanted to go back and find it. You know, when you have an idea that you've offered or a study that you've enjoyed, is the motivation to get some sort of validation for what you think about it, how you feel about it, your belief in the goodness or the veracity of that idea or whatever else, and can you be completely confident in yourself on the amazingness of the study and the truth and the, you know, the goodness and the benefits of your idea and all of that stuff, even if he dismisses it? Or do you feel like that in some way invalidates it for you? Do you have any hooks in needing to have that validated from somebody else? Or are you really confident in it on your own? And it's not to say that, of course, we enjoy sharing things with our partners and having them, you know, feedback and all of that. But it's just to really make sure that, because when you say that you aren't acting, you know, skillfully or authentically or having reactions to that kind of pushback, I'm curious for you as to why his dismissal is so triggering.
Yeah, because I think that actually could be, and Lila, you're not going to like me saying this, so here we go. I think that actually could be is that you're manipulative, that you want him to do something. So now you have a study in your hand proving that you're right, that he needs to change, but you want him to change on his own accord, not because you're saying it. So it's like that double thing. I really think this is one of those instances that this is better to talk about in person.
I agree.
It's better to come to the inquiry after Caesar.
After Caesar. You can be second.
You can be second. And Hannah, you need to remind us.
Yes.
That after Caesar, we can talk about this, because it sounds more like it's there's something underneath here. And remember, next week is autumn off. For you guys, you're off us next week, so there's no inquiry group next week.
Autumn is taking the week off.
Autumn is taking a week off. Yeah, that's autumn.
We're seasonless for a week.
Yeah. Because it does feel like this starts to get deeper and deeper than just what we can answer to here.
Yeah, I agree. And let me just see. And so Lisa Martin had said, and hi Lisa, it's good to have you here.
Yeah, so good to be.
Those attachments also become a point from which you can judge others, and you continue not to see but divert from what is fixated in oneself. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
And then Leela had said, we have been unable to make, Leela said, started on the other site, unable to write much here. We've been unable to make decisions about cleaning up the house for 5 years.
Oh God, I love that. Oh God. Oh yeah, Lila, we have to talk about this on inquiry, because I have heard that so many times. We made the decision that we should clean up the house. Are you sure that was a we? Are you absolutely sure that was a we? Or was it you pushing him to say, yeah, when you said, we really need to clean the house, we really need to clean it, we really need to clean the house. And he goes like, yeah. And you go, yeah, great. Yeah. We has decided that. I think we should talk about it on an inquiry group, because I think there's more underneath. What I would recommend you to look into about this, it's that we because it sounds to me like you want to clean up the house. He's happy like it is. I'm not pointing at you. You want to clean up the house. He's happy with how it is. He's got no need or urges to change anything. Happy like it is. You want something different, and you're waiting for him to be on board with that, which is manipulative. But I think, and I really don't want to hang you.
Well, I was going to say we're really shooting in the dark with a lot of this because we don't have
all the information. No.
So we don't want you to come out of this feeling blamed and like we're putting everything on you, because it's also possible that it's not. It's just
possible he's a jerk.
It is possible. So taking all of this into consideration, if it happens to ring true for you and for other people who are listening, if it happens to ring true for you, which is ultimately also why we do this, because one thing is never just relevant to one person. So it's very likely that whatever we're saying here, hopefully will still be resonant for other people.
Yeah.
But just for you personally, Leela, it would be good to work with you one-on-one on this on the following Tuesday, because we don't want you to feel like we're just coming down on you. But if it rings at all true, it is something definitely worth investigating, regardless of how you feel about it. And then I would recommend you also to look into, when you say that you want to clean out the house, what is entailed in that? Why hasn't that just happened today? It could happen today. You could clear out a closet today. You could clear out a room tomorrow. Why did that happen 4 years ago? What is it that is holding you back in doing that? And I think you will find that it's in you. The first things that is going to be on your list is going to be 4 or 5 issues about your partner. And underneath that, you will find out it's a second issue about your underlying beliefs. Lisa just said, Angelo says that doubt is still a strong pull in the higher fetters. Any idea for working with doubt from this viewpoint where the lower fetters have greatly weakened? One more time. Angelo says that doubt is still a strong pull in the higher fetters. Any idea for working with doubt from this viewpoint where the lower fetters have greatly weakened?
I don't agree with that. Do you agree with that?
I think it depends on what we're talking about. The doubt about.
Doubt is not a higher fetter issue. It's a lower fetter issue.
But I can see how if you have some second fetter stuff that still hasn't been worked through,
but it's still
a second fetter issue, but it can still come through even after having worked through a lot of the little stuff.
If what is meant that when you start to peel the onion and you have dropped all the lower fives and you're now working with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then suddenly a second fetter issue comes up, that obviously can come up because nothing is linear and nothing is permanent. I made an lesson about that in the 8th fetter, first lesson in the 8th fetter, I think, where I talk about that. But that doesn't mean that it can come, that it is a higher fetter issue. It's a second fetter issue. So even though you have worked yourself up to the 8th fetter, there is still something that needs now, with all the knowledge that you have and where you are in your life right now, go back to the second fetter and work with it from the new standpoint that you have. You have new knowledge. So when you hear the lessons in the second fetter, you're going to hear them completely different because you have more knowledge now. And you will hear in the second fetter that every time you listen to it, I'm saying different things every single time, because you are in a different place every single time. So if that is meant with it, that things will come up and you need to go back and work with it, then I agree. If it's meant that you are still in doubt when you are in the 8th fetter, then I do not agree. Doubt is a second fetter issue and something that should be kept there instead of starting to smear it over everything. This is an 8th fetter issue. No, it's not. 8th fetter is very much about underlying beliefs. And those underlying beliefs will open up for a whole box of worms that is second fetter related and needs to be sorted out in the second fetter.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that we also have to just remember that doubt is effectively just a series of conflicting beliefs.
Yeah.
And so as long as there is no belief in any of those beliefs, doubt can't exist.
That's
So
my point. That's
I
my
know,
point.
I know.
And that's the eight feather
Exactly.
thing. In the
And
eight
so
feather,
that's
there's no beliefs left.
exactly.
Which means
So
doubt can't arise.
exactly. So that's what I was
Yeah.
thank
you.
Of
Thank
course.
you. In the eighth feather, doubt cannot arise because there are no beliefs left. Doubt is conflicting beliefs, which is in the second feather.
Right. But like you were saying, it makes sense that as you're working through the eighth fetter, if there are things that are still unmet, that are underneath there, as we're starting to pull apart and let go of some of the most comforting and most cherished and clung to beliefs throughout your life, if those are starting to be stripped away, other things might for sure arise. And especially because so many of these are talking about their beliefs about things which we don't have any direct experience to support or refute. So if you have a belief in a higher power, for instance, you can't in your direct experience discover that, right? You can have experiences which you attribute to a higher power, but you can't directly know that the way that you have experienced it and described it is the way that you are, is the way that it is. And so if you start to come into just the direct being of the way things are without leaning on the beliefs and the descriptions that have maintained your worldview for most of your life, that can become a very doubt prone place to be, because now I don't have anything to then fill that void with. There's nothing to rely upon to say, okay, well, I'll give up that one, but now I'm going to take this other one on in its place. It is a place of really utter ambiguity and utter groundlessness. And so, yeah, that can absolutely bring up those conflicting thoughts, which again is all doubt is, of saying, well, I'm not sure, maybe this is right, maybe I'm not, and then going back and forth with that kind of feeling.
Beliefs.
And it's just conflicting thoughts which create that sense of discomfort. And so, of course, as long as you are wrestling with that, these bigger issues in what you've taken to be your life, of course, that kind of doubt can be there, but the doubt doesn't exist. The doubt is just one conflicting thought, or one thought conflicting with a previous thought, conflicting with the next thought, conflicting with the previous thought, so on and so forth.
And it's where the feathers and the wheel of identification is so useful, because we very clearly state what each feather is about. It's very, very easy to catch yourself and knowing, oh wow, I have beliefs in feelings and emotions. I feel a certain way. I know I shouldn't feel that. That's doubt. Okay, second feather, off we go. Yeah. And so you know that there's no point in you sitting stuck in the eighth feather where the solution is not to be found, because there's no beliefs in the eighth feather. So use the wheel of identification to discern, where is this an issue? Where is this? Where is the solution to this issue that I think I have? Well, if it's a belief in feeling and emotions, it's in second feather. If it's a belief in thoughts, it's in the first feather. So it's very, very easy to discern where those things arising are, and then not being stuck somewhere, for example, in the eighth feather, and going like, but it's still an issue. Doubt is still an issue in the eighth feather. That will just make you stuck. It will not be supportive of what you actually need.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a lot of actions, though. What happened?
Yeah. Here? So I wanted to go back. So Leela Devi had said, "We've if the negativity does not change, I will leave." And I just want to say, all of what we're doing here is never to put yourself in a situation where, if you are in an actually toxic, negative, unhealthy environment or relationship, that you just stick it out and stay in it because you take that on as being your fault. That we're never saying that.
No,
so
never, ever, ever.
If leaving is always an option, and in certain circumstances, the right one.
But if it is if the negativity is in you, then
it doesn't matter.
leaving won't help.
No. So it's really coming to really clear seeing of what the actual situation is.
And also there's also something, I think we all have those people in our lives that are the half empty glass, you know,
completely.
that if that half empty glass rings true in me, it's difficult to be with really, really negative people. When I hear really, really negative people, also when we meet people in the street and stuff like that, I tend to laugh about it because it's so in my ears, because I don't believe it. It's so funny to hear how people are, you know, digging a hole and then complaining about the shade in the hole. You know, it's like it's really funny to hear. So yeah, it's also Leela, it's so difficult, and I feel we are doing you a disservice by even have answered your question at all.
Partially.
Yeah, partially, half answered, not knowing the full story. Yeah.
Please come in the following Tuesday.
Yeah,
session.
not on Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, but the following.
But no, the following
Tuesday.
is Friday, so it's a Tuesday. Could we please look in the calendar and see when we have? I got it here. Yeah. There was more written on there.
Okay, so Hannah said, I've revisited Fetter 2 many times and see new insights each time because the starting place is different after having different realizations. The Fetter 2 lessons are so wonderful. Yep.
Absolutely agree. And it's also, it's really that understanding that there's nothing, you have not failed if you have worked with the 8th fetter and really understood it, and then feel something arising, and like Hannah, going back to the 2nd fetter because there's more to work with. It's not a failing. That is actually a beautiful sign of emotional maturity, that you acknowledge and recognize that there's something here that needs my support and my help. The help is in the 2nd fetter. I now go to the 2nd fetter and work with that. And you will, like Hannah said, understand something completely different. And the next inquiry group is on the 29th
of October.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. And Lisa said, okay, wonderful. That's exactly what I'll do. Yes, that is clear. Yes, the 2nd fetter can come up. Got it. Pretty sure this is exactly what Angelo was getting at.
Yeah, okay. I believe so too. We're quite agree with Angelo in a lot of things. So I completely see that. It's so nice to have like Angelo, because he talks in a very different way and teaches in a very different way, and it's so helpful for you guys to have us and Angelo sitting and saying the same thing in different ways. You understand in so many, with so many different aspects of it. So it's really helpful.
Yeah. And
shout out to Angelo.
Right. And just saying hi, love you guys. Jahara. Hey,
Jahara.
We've been wondering how you're doing. It's so good
so
good to see you here. Yeah. Well, hear you here. Read you here. So good to read you here. And Grace Happens says, I agree, Lisa. I was surprised to hear him say that, but it makes sense now. Thanks for asking and answering.
Yeah.
No worries. And Jaraika said, at what fetter is the sense of body sensations being mine is dissolved? Is this part of the fetter 1?
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah. So which fetter deals with the feelings of bodily sensations being dissolved? I would actually say it's more fetter 6.
Yeah.
You have with fetter 1, there's a lot of identification with the body, which goes away. So instead of feeling like this is, yeah. So within that first foundational triangle of the first 3 fetters, there's a lot of identification happening
with the body,
with me and the body. This is my body and all of that, but you still feel relatively solidly as a body. You might have, after like a fetter 1 shift, a lot of times people will feel that dissociated, no longer feeling like they are the body. Almost like sometimes it's kind of like you're watching from a GoPro camera on somebody's head where you don't really feel anything that's associated with it. It's just kind of this visual image of limbs moving and that sort of thing. That is possible. But where we really get into the dissolving of the feelings of the body tends to happen more in the sixth fetter, where we really start to experience explore what are you actually experiencing in the physical sensations of what we take to be a body, and how is that constructed? So how much of it is a mental overlay of just an image that you're seeing in your mind, which seems to be putting a shape to all of these sensations? Are the sensations that you're feeling actually the body themselves, or just mental appearances of tingling, buzzing, temperature, pressure, things like that? And then the more you dissolve them, the more you see that not only can you not feel the boundaries of the body, you can't feel the separation between the air and what is inside the skin. You can't feel the separation between the butt and the chair that it's sitting on. You can't even tell without putting a mental label on it with an image or something else that there is even a butt or a chair. It's just raw sensation, which the more you pay clear attention to it also dissolves. That's really where we start to break apart those boundaries and the implied inherent solidity of the physical form.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Really good.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have said it much more low practical, but I like that more. I like that more. The way I would say it is like, if you look at your thighs right now, right, all of you look at your thighs, and you might look at your thighs and you think, oh, I have fat thighs. Oh, I should lose weight. I have fat thighs. That is a lower foundational triangle issue, where the size of my thigh says something about me. That the way that I perceive my body says something about me. The way that I think other people perceive my body says something about me. So they think something about me based on how I think my thighs look. If there's anything about that, I need to lose weight, gain weight, go to the gym, all of that. That is the foundational triangle, where it's very crude identification with the body. The sixth fetter is, if you look at your thighs right now, and then notice that what you see as your thighs is not what feels as thighs, which means I would like for you to first look through your eyes. How does your thighs look? And now I would like for you to pay your attention in the thighs, because your thighs does not feel like you think they look. So the way that your thighs look is not how they feel. If you feel how your thighs feel, there is nothing of that can lose weight, gain weight, be more muscular, be less muscular, be longer, be shorter, be anything. You have a feeling in your thighs that is not thigh shaped. And if you close your eyes, still focus on your thighs, then your thighs are touching the seat you're sitting on. How can you discern what is seat and what is thighs? And if you keep focusing on the sensation of thighs, they will dissolve. Okay, you can open your eyes again. And that is actually one of the meditations that we also do, is where you dissolve the body. It's a great exercise to work with if you have issues with fear, or if you have fear of death, because you are dissolving the entire body. There's nothing left, and you are completely dissolved. There's no one left anywhere. You can't feel your body. You don't have any sensation of a body being anywhere. Yeah.
Love it. Leela said Tuesday 10:29 Caesar and Leela session. Yes.
Oh, thank you, Leela.
Marif has a question in the Q&A. I will get to that. Okay, let me actually do that one first because that did come in first, and then we'll get to the ones that just came in. So Marife said, if there's no linearity and the only way to see it as real is by thoughts that compare different snapshots and put them together, how can something be stored in the body? Is it an instant assumption that arises with a concrete sensation in a particular snapshot too? Thank you.
When we talk about how the body is formed and how when we talk about the stories in the body and how you can have personalities and underlying beliefs and all of that stored in the body, it's because we are back to where you are created. It's the last trimester when you're in the womb, and then it's up to when you're 16 years. Your brain is fully formed when you're 21. So that from the last trimester until you're 21, you are in a process of development. And we know that if there is anything happening in specific time, for example, when you're in the womb, if your mom in a certain week, can't remember which it is getting drunk, that will affect your nervous system, and it will give you a lack of amino acids that will create a deficiency in you that will make you an addict of different things. It can be different things. If she's lacking zinc, then the probability of you developing any kind of eating disorder is higher because you're lacking zinc. And we know that is how it is because the creation of a human being is so vulnerable. And on top of that, we have all the genetic material. You were present in your grandmother, because when your mother was in your grandmother's womb, the eggs that one of them became you was already formed in your mom. So you have, I mean, the implications of us sitting here and having an intellectual conversation is mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. What was the question again? Well, how did I get here?
It's so if I could just put in my little bit of an answer, because I also have a somewhat question, and then I think that will spark something.
Okay.
So the question is, if everything is just different snapshots, how is it that something can be stored in the body? And then, is that just an assumption that we create from this particular snapshot that something was stored in the body? But I would say it, and I don't know, I'm curious also of your take on this, because like on one hand, there is the genetic side where, for instance, we have a hereditary disorder in my family called HHT, and you can develop these little telangiectasia, these little abnormalities of the blood vessels. And the interesting thing is, if they surgically go in and remove them, the body will just grow new ones in that same place because the DNA says they're supposed to be there, and no matter what happens, it will continue to produce them, because even if you remove them, they're supposed to be there as far as the DNA is concerned. Similarly, or maybe differently, and this is where I think it's an interesting thing, and I don't know if we even know why exactly it works this way, or at least I don't. But like, if you have a really bad cut on your hand and you develop a scar, 30 years later, the body has completely regrown. I mean, all those cells are new, and yet the scar is still there. We do not know
why. Yeah, we don't know why. And there's actually been a lot of really, really interesting studies into that, because if we can find out why the messaging of the scar, and you also see on your body, there's some scars that you can't see. They're not there anymore. And other scars, they're there, and we don't know why. Obviously, there's been a lot of studies in that, because if we can find a solution for that, you won't develop wrinkles.
Of course.
And that's why there's been so much funding into finding out what it is.
Priorities.
Yeah. We have to look young forever.
We do.
As if being, newly born is a flex.
That's awesome.
Recently born is not a flex.
Yeah.
It was Ricky Gervais who said that.
Yeah.
But there has actually been lots of studies, and we don't know why. We don't know. We know that there's a loss, but we don't know why there's a loss.
Yeah.
And also why some people have, create more scars. Why? We know now that different amino acids and peptides are there present to create stretch marks, for example, which you can supply with before a pregnancy, for example, so you don't have stretch marks then it's the level of those peptides being present, and then you don't develop stretch marks.
Mm-hmm.
So we know a little bit, but we don't know much.
Mm. So I think it's going into that where we don't. I mean, there's something where the body is, even though everything is different all the time, the bodily cells are dying constantly and regrowing, but there is like a pattern at which those things are being replaced, where it's kind of like the ship of Theseus, that old thought experiment, where if you take a boat and every year you remove one piece of wood and replace it with a new one, after 100 years or whatever, the entire boat has been replaced. Is it still the original boat or not? It's been replaced bit by bit. It looks exactly the same, perhaps in a way, but it's not. And so it's that kind of idea where, for whatever reason, some of these things are, that tension that happened to be locked in the body at one particular traumatic instant. For whatever reason, even though those muscles have regrown and changed, there is still something there which I think has maintained.
I also think that there's a connection with the psychology and the body that we're not completely aware of.
Yeah.
That if we have experienced something that has created a starting point, like right now we see lots of children that are growing up in war zones, and they have a different nervous system. We know that from when the war in 91 was in Yugoslavia, that ended up with having Croatia and Serbia, and we know those children that was born during those wars, they now have children, and you can see in the children's nervous system, even though they were not in war, they are reacting as if there's war, because that has been transmitted genetically. And we know that with the migrant crisis and all of that we have now, that we are creating people and children that are born of people that have a very, very alert nervous system. Because it is passed on. It is passed on like that. So even though we can work with in the awakening that there's just this now, there's just this snapshot of a now, there is a connection that we don't know about that is affecting us. And I also just know from personal experience and also in my work that working with people that had traumas in their life that are coming from a dysfunctional family, when you allow that to be and you create space for that, it does dissolve because it wasn't allowed, and it creates space in you. For example, if you come from a very dysfunctional family where your survival mechanism is to see other people's needs before they arise, because if you do that, then it's less likely that you're going to get beaten. For example, let's say that personality trait follows you because it is part of your survival. So you are really, really good at seeing other people's needs. You're going to make a perfect nurse, for example, because you see the patient's need before it even arises. You're making a perfect crisis counselor or anything like that, because you see people's needs arising before they actually happen. But if you go in therapy, or if you work with that underlying belief that life is unsafe and that you need to ensure your safety by reading the room, and you allow that to be there, not saying there's anything wrong with the reading the room and not wanting it to go away, but just calming yourself and saying, I get that. I completely get that. It's okay for you to be fearful. You don't have not to be fearful. You don't have to be any different than you are. It's completely fine that this is the way that you perceive reality, even though it's delusional. It's completely fine. Then you calm that alertness in you, and it's not a need anymore. So you're still a perfect nurse, and you're still a good trauma counselor and all of that, but you just don't, it doesn't come from an underlying belief of fear. Yeah.
I think that covered it.
Yeah.
Right? Hopefully.
Yeah. If not my fail, then let us know.
Yeah. Anne wrote and asked, I don't have clear understanding what perception means related to Fetter 7. Could you give an example, please? So I think
perception is the same thing in all the fetters, right?
Well, I think it was I think I should probably referring more to the way that Kevin and Christiane talk about it.
Oh, I don't know.
Because the way that they talk about Fetter 6 is the witness is perceiving something else, and so you're breaking down that dichotomy between there's a witness in here who is seeing the world around me and hearing sounds and all that, and in Fetter 7 it's the perception itself, it's that is seen through that. Not only is there no witness here seeing something else, there is no perceiving that is happening.
But we do that in the sixth fetter.
In the sixth fetter, yeah. So I think it's just a difference of interpretation, but effectively it's the same idea that we have the idea that perception and you can use synonymously sometimes terms like awareness or attention or things like that are also interchanged. That if it feels like there is something here which is able to witness a world either externally or internally in the mind, there's an idea that there is something here which is taking in those sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and sensations, and recognizing them, knowing them, perceiving them, grasping them, being able to reference this visual field to the memory perhaps of a visual field that I've had before. It's kind of how we build this sense of one who is here that knows this room, who recognizes people, who recognizes foods that I like and foods that I don't like, things like that. But what we're talking about here is a much more primal assumption that there is this faculty of perception, that there is something which can see, hear, smell, taste, or touch anything. And essentially what we're saying is if you investigate your experience closely enough, you start to recognize that not only is there no one in here who is witnessing the visual field, but the visual field is a spontaneous arising of its own with no need for this additional faculty of perception that seems to create that bridge or that knowingness between the one who is experiencing it and the thing which is being experienced. It is the pure experienceless experience. This is where language is so frustrating for this. It's that spontaneous visual field as it is, with no need for an intermediary or with no need for a person, a witness, an experiencer, a subject, or anything else to see and know and recognize the visual field. It is just pure, raw experience, which again implies somebody else. I hate that word, but I don't really know.
No, we don't have
what else the word to use for it.
Our language is self-referential, so it's difficult to talk about.
Yeah, it's the pure raw substance of the visual field.
The visual field do not need a you to exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't need a you for it to arise.
Exactly. And so the assumption that there is that perceiving happening or consciousness happening, I mean, even in Buddhist terminology, there is a consciousness for each of the sense fields. So when the eye comes in contact with a flower, the visual consciousness happens, that there's a recognition and yeah, it's not the word. It was an A word, but yeah, grasping works. Not apprehension, the apprehending of the thing, and then that the knowingness of that flower happens. But eventually, even that consciousness of it is seen to be illusory. That it's an apparent arising. That actually the visual field in your actual experience has nothing to do with the eye. On a scientific level, we can say, of course, if the eyes are removed, there's probably not going to be that external visual appearance that's happening. But in your actual experience, the two are not related. In your actual experience, the visual field, the world around you, seemingly around you, is not appearing outside of your eyeballs. It is appearing in the same space in which all of your internal mentations, all of your internal thoughts are also happening in that same place. This is it's a projection that's happening that is putting that visual field out there, outside of a me, separate, where I can be here and it can be there, and I can create a world based off of that expected, projected sense of distance and space. But in your actual direct experience with the visual field, it is simply self-arising, self-known, aware, not aware, it's like every word is like a trap, because it implies something that we don't mean for it to imply.
It's because our words are self-referential.
Yeah.
We can't use any words because all of them are self-referential. It's not what we mean.
Yeah. So it is just simply the visual field with no need for any idea of a perceiver who could possibly perceive anything.
Yeah.
That was a long way of getting to that, which I think hopefully.
But you can find it in the 6th feather in the curriculum.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Leela Debbie said, I got it, 1029. Thank you. Sorry for not being able to adequately express. No, not your fault at all. This is just with the communication here, it's tough to get enough detailed information through one-sided writing. So it's just a limitation of this format.
Yeah. And we really apologize if we have made you feel anything other than at peace and calm and being absolutely okay. That is definitely our intention for you to have that feeling in you.
Yeah. Oh, and I had missed also, Anne said, what are the indicators that Fetter 7 is dissolved or seen through? And I think we should clarify then, if you're talking about the way that we work on it, the Fetter 6 version of perception, that's where there's a very clear, in your direct experience, recognition that there is no witness here who is separate from anything else. The visual field is just this, that this auditory field is just that everything is just arising with no separation or boundary between whatever that sense faculty is, and that there's no separation, because there is nothing separate from it, that there is no feeling of one who is in here who is at a distance from, or perceiving or recognizing, or
and that is where, in the 6th feather, that is where you dissolve the perceiving, and the perceiver and the perceiving is dissolved in the 6th feather. So in the 6th feather, we are dissolving the length, the height, and the depth. In the 7th feather, we're dissolving the last dimension, which is time. So that is also unpinning. I have like a Google exercise in the 7th feather, where it's that you imagine yourself standing, when you have Google Maps and you pin you here, and you pin on Google Maps, and you can see all the way and behind you and to the other side and up and down. So you're in the middle of those six directions that you have on Google Maps. Then what we do is that you imagine that you have a pin there, and then you unpin. And that is completely removing the last dimension of time. We also dissolve time with a time travel exercise, which is a bit longer. So I can recommend you to watch the 6th feather to see how we work with the 6th feather, and then the 7th feather. And those two are really priming you in the higher 5s to work with the 8th feather, where you completely dissolve everything, all beliefs and everything.
Yeah, and also in Fetter 7.
And starting points.
Yeah. And in Fetter 7, we also deal a lot with that idea of something out of nothing.
Yes.
And so it's really recognizing all the different ways in which you are fabricating an idea of substantiality or reality, or any expectation or assumption of what something is, on top of the raw experience of how it's showing up.
Yeah.
And in that regard, too, if there are any lingering feelings of that sense of perception, that would also go in there, because that sense of perception is something which we are assuming and putting on top of the other raw experience. That, for instance, regarding that sixth fetter feeling, if you have a visual image that shows up and you have sensation in the chest or behind the eyes, that is all you have. You have physical sensation in the body, and you have a visual appearance of something just appearing in our mental visual space. The seventh fetter version of that is to say, well, I feel this sensation. I see that visual field. There must be a separation here. There must be a me in here who sees, or a witness in here who is somehow separate from that. That is using the seventh fetter to create that sense of, oh, there must be a perceiver here who's perceiving this thing. There must be a faculty of perception. That's that seventh fetter creating something out of nothing.
Yeah. And you can use, we also use the seventh fetter kind of like as a gatekeeper before you enter the eighth fetter, because we have so many warnings for the eighth fetter. And that's also why that you can find in the seventh fetter, you can find lessons where we look into the something out of nothing in the first fetter, second fetter, third and fourth, all the fetters, that we have lessons that are pointing to the something out of nothing in all the fetters, that where we're creating something that is not there, where we're just assuming it is there, taking that as a truth, and that is being dissolved in the seventh fetter as well. And that is kind of like the gatekeeper for 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and then Leela had said final questions for the seventh fetter. So yeah, that's also yeah, definitely check out that video. Jareka said, I meant the felt sense of being, mine, like somehow the field of sensations as seen as mine. Okay, so that was when we had talked about the body, when the bodily sense dissolves, which fetter? And so they're saying
feeling my body as my body?
No, the felt sense of being, meaning like somehow the field of sensations is seen as mine. So having
field of sensation. So the kernel of I?
I think it's actually more the first fetter version of like, I feel the sensations here, and there feels like an ownership over. This is the feeling of like the sensation of my hand versus your hand, which again, there are tie-ins between first and sixth with that as well.
But I would say go through the triangle of the foundational fetters and work with those, because there's a lot of work with all those identifying that we have with the body and with things regarding the body. So exercise, diet, sleep. There's a lot of. Are you okay down there?
Yeah.
That there's a lot of identifiers in the third fetter that leads you back into the first fetter. Yeah. So look through those and really, see if that is where there's that feeling of my hand or feeling of my body or my,
Yeah. But it does break down more and more in the sixth fetter, where you're working with, is what I'm feeling right now, is that even a concept of, is that my hand versus your leg, or, however, like where are these sensations really appearing, and getting more fine-tuned about the distinction about what you're feeling and how it could possibly have any last vestige of ownership involved in it. Can sometimes take till there to really work with too.
Yeah. Really good question.
Yeah. Dawn asked, we can only see something when it's ready to, or said we can only see something when it's ready to be seen. Yeah. And Jason said, hey, everyone, been busy at school and feeling the sense to take a break from the practice, going to go back through the lessons again, but not feeling going into eighth fetter just yet. It's totally fine. Still got some things holding on.
I just want to say that you're not alone with that. We have spoken with lots of people that feel a bit guilty for not going into the eighth and not following the curriculum where we are at now in the creation of the curriculum. Please don't feel that. This is your process.
Yeah.
All the curriculum is just there and it's available and you can work with it in your own time, and there's no point in being forceful at all. No. When we're done with all of it, I'm gonna make a meditation guidance and practice that it's going to take you at least 30 years to really get.
Yeah.
So it's like you're in no rush whatsoever. No rush whatsoever.
You got time.
Lots of time.
Beth said, I've been practicing TRE and have noticed a big shift in orientation towards experience. My brain appears to be working in a healthier way. Do you have any thoughts about TRE? Much love, Beth.
We just talked about that.
Yeah.
We have talked about that. Yeah, I think TRE is amazing. I warmly support, and there's so many people in our community that are doing TRE and they're having amazing experiences. And if you have that, go for it.
Yep.
Basically, yeah, just go for it. There's nothing done wrong with doing TRE. All embodiment work is amazing. The only thing I have to say is that there will be somebody sitting and hearing me saying this and feeling so bad because they can't do TRE. When they do TRE, they feel stressed. The body reacts with stress and react with more contraction and react with lots of different things that they just feel unstable and where it really doesn't work for them. I'm one of those. It's why I'm saying it, that I know that I'm not the only one that has it like that. So if TRE works for you, do that. If TRE does not work for you, it's completely fine. We have the 12 exercises that you can do that are for all the people that can't do TRE.
And also for ones who
and
do
also
enjoy
for the
it.
ones that
Yeah.
can do TRE, that
It's
love the 12 exercises of organic shaking and moving.
Beth said the first fetter just dropped away spontaneously after a few sessions.
Oh,
that's amazing.
wow, that's amazing.
Congrats. That's wonderful.
Amazing. So glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I would like to see your paintings before and after feather drop.
Oh, that's an interesting. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I would love that.
Off to work you go.
Coming here thinking you're gonna relax and then we're putting stuff on you right away.
No. Pernilla says you need to go paint. Anne said, looking into fear sensation arises. Sensations become just empty and gone, like nothing there. But same time, like something is there, and sensations are same. What visual, like for example, moving car, and fear is just an empty thought, not attached to anything. Let me just reread that because I think I missed something. Looking into fear, you have sensation that arises. Sensations become just empty and gone, like there's nothing there. It's absolutely true. But at the same time, like something is there, and sensations are the same, like what a visual, like for example, a moving car. And fear is just an empty thought, not attached to anything. Yeah, exactly. So the more you are, so the more that you are investigating these emotions, especially the ones that we tend to shy away from, and like fear and anxiety and things like that, the more you recognize that what we take to be fear is just raw sensation in the body.
Yeah.
And a thought about a situation, about possible ramifications of a situation, because oftentimes it's not really the situation that's the problem. It's what we can create with our imagination, all of these possible knock-on effects of, well, if this thing happens, then this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And it's all going to have some sort of negative impact on me in some way that I don't want. All of that is happening in the mind. It's not here right now. All that is here is some sort of constriction in the body, sweating palms, racing heart, shallow breathing, things like this that are happening, which are just benign sensations in a body. And then some images that appear that have, again, nothing to do with the present moment. And we have a label that we then stick on all of this and just say, that's fear. I'm experiencing fear, which oftentimes brings itself a whole bunch of rejection, wanting to get away from it. And then, like I had said earlier, when you have that idea of like fear, you start interacting out of the assumptions that fear means something real in your situation, that if I feel it, it must be true. There are times, of course, when it is. I mean, obviously if you are in physical danger or something, the fear has a logical use, and it's good. It's actually helping you engage the body in a way to either flee from the situation or fight or whatever you need to do. But in general, when we have this kind of non-productive sense of fear, it's because we are experiencing this reaction in the body, which is not directly related to something which is in our immediate surroundings. And then we're using the mind to create all sorts of stories around it, and then labeling it in a way that puts it into the box of every other time I felt this sensation, so that now we're no longer even interacting with this moment of sensation in the body and thoughts about an impending calamity. But now I'm experiencing fear, which is just like every other time that I've experienced fear in the past. And we are now only talking about the label of the experience and not actually experiencing it directly like we could be. And so much arises. So many problems arise when we are only existing through label as opposed to through the direct experience.
Yeah.
So like you said, fear is just an empty thought, not actually attached to anything. It's just, there's no relationship to that idea. What you're having is just a biological reaction in a moment to something and some thoughts, which are in some way either inspiring more of those sensations or, coming up to support what's happening there and create something out of them.
Yeah. I think we have a lot in the second feta about that too. First and second feta.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I think that was the last question, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Lisa said bye. Love you guys.
I love
Likewise.
you. Yeah.
Beth said thanks. And Leela Debbie said thank you so much. So much love here. Good. I'm glad that you know, you didn't take personally any of the stuff that we were saying.
No,
so
it's really said with so much compassion and love. And if you're left with any other feeling than compassion and love, then please unhear everything. It's really meant with a compassion and love. And come back on the 29th, and then we speak with you personally after we've spoken with Caesar.
Yeah.
So that means that next week there's autumn off, which means there's no inquiry group, there's no Q&A, there's Discord where you can speak with all the other people from our hive mind. The week after we have the Q&A again, and then the 29th we're back with the inquiry group.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone so much.
Thank you so much. We love that you guys are showing up. We love that you're members. We love that you're showing up and asking all your questions. We love this interaction. Yeah. Absolutely. It's so nice. I love reading on Discord as well. I love the interactions that you have in there. And if there's anything on Discord that you're in doubt about, that you would like, that we talk about, then write it under the thread of there was lots of back and forth about fear and about pain. So if there's anything that you would like for us to address, then just write it in the thread. Otherwise we're not addressing it because we would like for you guys to work with it. It's sometimes it's interrupting or interfering when we are coming in and saying something, so it's helpful also to have a place where you guys can talk. So that was it.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend to you and yours.
So good seeing you guys. Reading you guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.